Justice has finally been done. After being snubbed at the Game Awards, the Golden Joysticks, Time Magazine, finally Starfield has been given Game of the Year by a trusted publication. To this particular outlet, it doesn't matter that Starfield is currently sitting at mostly negative reviews, at least most recently, because pure Xbox, they've declared that Starfield is the top dog for 2023. As you can see here, it's been given the top spot, and can you believe that an outlet called Pure Xbox would give this title, give Game of the Year to one of their own? It is outrageous. Their review earlier in the year for Starfield, they gave it a 9 out of 10. Now, I hear quite often now how IGN was getting clowned on for giving Starfield a 7 out of 10. Can you believe that IGN had the most integrity of most of the mainstream outlets? But what they say about Starfield Pure Xbox is, yep, after a lengthy period of vote counting, calculating, and rolling around on the ground full of mince pies, we finally got ourselves a Pure Xbox Game of the Year for 2023. And what you're probably curious about is, how did the other contenders fare? If Starfield is Game of the Year, who exactly did they beat out? And we can see Baldur's Gate 3 is in second place, runners up. And this outlet gave it a -2 out of 10 in their review. We'll have to check that out. I did double check. This isn't a satire website. It is real, but we'll have a look at this review in a second. They mentioned controversial. We're at number 2 now, and it may not be the game that some of us were expecting here. Yes, Larian Studios might have just delivered what could be, well, the greatest RPG ever made, but that's not enough for you lot, is it? It's never enough. So if this is apparently the greatest RPG ever, what is Starfield then? It must be the magnum opus. It must be the one of a kind. It's the greatest game of all time. And what I find interesting is it doesn't seem to stand on its own 2 feet. Even when describing the game that they've ranked as the top one for 2023, they still seem to have to make excuses for it. Let's have a look at this. Starfield may not have been exactly what everyone was expecting in many ways. Such is the trouble with modern levels of pre-release hyperbole. You want a good game? You want something that's acceptable and fun to play? That is pre-release hyperbole. How dare you for expecting something that you might actually enjoy? But it absolutely gave us a great deal of what we personally wanted from Bethesda, once that same hype died down. This is, for better or worse, depending on your outlook, Skyrim in space. Rather than the great revolution some had promised, I would have absolutely taken Skyrim in space. That's what I expected it to be before it came out. I thought we might get a few decent planets, maybe an ice one, maybe one that resembles Earth, maybe a fiery, dusty, desert-like planet. Something with a bit of difference, but instead it's procedural generation. There's no real exploration. It's copy and paste, the same landmarks over and over. It's not Skyrim in space. It's Skyrim if you took the world out and you just teleported from dungeon to dungeon. You teleported to Whiterun, then you went somewhere else. Nothing happens. It's not even a world. The idea that this game would be innovative, a revolution, that promised freedom. The freedom to traverse huge swaths of space, to blast off into the endless void. Now, the endless void, that would be a good description for the entire game. And make our own adventures. It absolutely hasn't come to fruition here. Only a fool would tell you it has. So this is meant to be number 1, yet they're making these excuses. And Baldur's Gate 3, they described it as maybe the best RPG of all time. What's going on? How did this even make the top 10? I bet you Redfall is on it. Xbox, Pure Xbox. You know Redfall's going to be there as well. However, whilst it doesn't reach the heights it set out for itself, there's still a fascinating world to explore. A classic slice of Bethesda RPG action that sucked us in and kept us fully absorbed for its entire duration. Todd Howard had to have written this. I'm trying to find an author. Where is he? Who penned this? We'll figure it out later. But he goes on to say, some may have found it a little bit too empty, a bit too disjointed and slow-moving, but we thoroughly enjoyed it, as we stated in our review at the time. And in their review they said, after all the hype and bluster, this is a very, very good RPG and a game we'll be playing and replaying for a long time to come. Well, unfortunately, people have gone back to Skyrim, they've gone back to Fallout 4, they've got higher player numbers, no one's replaying this. Very few people probably finished it, they tried to enjoy it, they realised they were just inhaling copium, they gave up, they're never going back. Oh, I thought that was the end, but there's a little bit more. So then, in the end, Starfield has triumphed. And surely there is no greater triumph for a game dev than the validation of the very people who fork out their money to sit down and enjoy video games. This reviewer didn't fork out their money, they were paid. This is called pure Xbox. It's not some non-partisan outlet. You were literally paid to suck up to Microsoft, to suck up to Bethesda. Jesus Christ. And if we look at some comments, even these people who actually voluntarily come to the pure Xbox website to get their news, to get their reviews, even they're not having it. I shouldn't be, but I'm shocked at the winner. That game is so bad. Starfield is an incredible game. Okay, maybe there are some Toddettes here. I spoke a bit too soon, but we do have this person. Starfield, really? The game has the most lazy designed story I've ever seen, and the game is filled with empty planets. It's an okay game at the most. Yep, true, real. And someone responding to a Copa says, the best game should get it, mate. Not a game just so you can say an exclusive of your fave bit of plastic justifies your purchase. That pretty much describes this entire website, this whole pure Xbox. Okay, this guy genuinely has Starfield brain. I put 300 hours in Starfield and I agree, it's game of the year. And if I'm gonna go by the games I've played, then Redfall is number 2, it's runners up. I do plan on playing Resident Evil 4, but fuck that, the rest on the list is no for me. I have no words for that one. Well, I'm still playing Starfield, and that really counts as something, does it? It is very flawed, though. The missions are extremely bland and need some of that Fallout humor. Merry Christmas! Starfield was my game of the year too. I loved it. Oh, all these Xbox fans coming together. Fantastic. Number 1 ruins the entire list and pretty much makes it a fanboy ranking. This would be exactly like Spider-Man 2 being Push Square's game of the year. Baldur's Gate 3 is better than those two games in almost every category, but it is not about that, is it? Well, this is Sherlock Holmes. He's a detective. He's seen that it is pure Xbox, and he can see that there is some bias. And I do just want to touch on that there is actually a ranking here. There is a top 5, and then top 5 pick starts with Hogwarts Legacy. How brave of them. This person must be a nasty bigot if he's putting Hogwarts Legacy on the list. I cannot believe it. You've got Alan Wake 2, safe choice. People seem to like it. And of course, Hi-Fi Rush, another Xbox game, is number 3. Seems decent, I haven't gotten around to it yet, but that is okay. And then, of course, Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield. But what happened to Redfall? What did Redfall do to you to get left off this list? This isn't fair to Xbox fans. Now, I did want to touch on their Baldur's Gate 3 review, because at -2 out of 10, that's why I thought this was a satirical website. What happened there? And it seems like it was a glitch. There wasn't even meant to be a score at all, so outstanding website, it looks like. They do a top job, but there's an editor's note here on the review. As you're probably aware, Baldur's Gate 3 for Xbox has been suffering with an issue in which players are losing their save files. Well, I don't play on Xbox, I didn't even know about this. Who cares? We didn't experience this issue during our review, so we were ready to deliver an outstanding 10 out of 10 rating. Oh no, so it should have won Game of the Year, but this issue stopped them from winning. Damn it, Larian, why can't you do a better job? Hang on a minute, let's not throw Larian under the bus, because it then says the problem also appears to be on Xbox's side. Although we can't say this with 100% certainty. So they've tried to blame Larian for this problem while also kind of acknowledging, yeah, it probably is Xbox, it probably is Microsoft's fault. And this is the reason there's no review score. They say we've decided to hold off on displaying a final score until the problem has been fully addressed. So their logic basically is if someone's made an incredible game, it works, it's perfect, but it doesn't work because of issues on Microsoft's end. Well, unfortunately, we just can't give it that 10 out of 10 we were planning. We're gonna have to give it to Starfield. Is Todd in the Xbox server rooms with a hammer, smashing shit down, burning the house to the ground, just so that Baldur's Gate 3 can't win? That seems to be what might be happening. And if we go back to the Steam reviews, I just want to mention again, mostly negative. You know, there was once a time where it was very difficult to get casual fans to acknowledge Bethesda's faults, the weaknesses of some of their prior games, the dumbed down RPG elements. Those times are over. Everyone's shitting on them. Everyone's making their voice heard. It's a good day. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.